They say blood is thicker than water, but I learned the hard way that sometimes blood can drown you while strangers throw you a lifeline. My name is Ilara Vance, and this is the story of how I stopped waiting for my family's love and started building an empire from their indifference. Christmas morning, 1998. I was 8 years old, sitting cross-legged on our Persian rug, watching my sister Serafina unwrap a brand new Dell computer. The excitement in her eyes matched the satisfied smiles on our parents' faces. My own gift sat forgotten beside me, a second-hand Barbie dream house with a broken door hinge. Mother knelt beside Serafina, her voice filled with pride. Serafina is going to be a great engineer someday. She has such a logical mind. Father nodded approvingly. Technology is the future, and our Serafina will be leading it. I tugged on Mother's silk blouse. Can I try it too, Mommy? I want to learn about computers. Mother's smile became strained. Oh, sweetheart, you should focus on things more suitable for you, maybe dolls or cooking. Serafina needs this for her studies. But curiosity burned in my chest. When everyone was busy with dinner preparations, I snuck into Serafina's room and touched the keyboard. Within an hour, I had figured out the paint program and created a simple animation. My heart raced with discovery, and I couldn't wait to show Father. I found him reading the Wall Street Journal. "Daddy, look what I made." I pulled on his sleeve, vibrating with excitement. His eyes glanced at my animation for perhaps 3 seconds before he patted my head with absent-minded affection. "That's very nice, sweetheart. Now run along and help your mother set the table." The dismissal hit me like cold water. I tried again, showing him the file system, how I could make folders. Each attempt met the same polite disinterest, the same gentle redirection toward more appropriate activities. The breaking point came when Serafina found me using her computer a week later. I had been exploring a programming tutorial, my 8-year-old mind struggling but determined. Serafina's shriek brought both parents running. "She broke it! Ilara broke my computer!" I tried to explain I had only been learning, but Father's face darkened. "Ilara, you know better than to touch things that don't belong to you. Serafina needs this computer for important work, not for your games." But I wasn't playing games, I was learning. "Enough!" His voice cut through my protests. "Serafina is the future of this family. She has real talent, real potential. You are just a little girl who likes to play with things she doesn't understand." That night, lying in bed surrounded by dolls I had never asked for, I made my first silent promise. Someday, I would show them. Someday, I would prove I was more than just a little girl who played with things she didn't understand. 6 years passed, and the pattern deepened. While Serafina received tutoring and constant encouragement for mediocre efforts, I taught myself programming from library books, staying after school to use the computer lab. At 14, I spent 3 months creating a sophisticated website for managing student homework assignments. The regional programming competition was accepting submissions, and I felt confident about my project. The night before the awards ceremony, I stood before my mirror in my navy blue dress, imagining my parents' faces when they saw me on stage. I found them in the living room. "The award ceremony is tomorrow night at 7. I really think you should be there. My project has been selected as a finalist." Mother looked up from her checkbook, distracted. "Tomorrow night? Oh, honey, that's Serafina's championship volleyball game. The whole family needs to support her scholarship opportunity." The words hit like a physical blow. "But Mom, this is important too. I've been working on this for months." Father's voice cut through mine with practiced dismissal. "Ilara, your little computer hobby is fine, but Serafina's athletic scholarship could pay for her entire college education. We can't miss something that important for a science fair project." "It's not a science fair project," I said, voice rising. "It's a statewide programming competition. Real companies sponsor it." Mother's smile was patronizing. "That's wonderful, dear, but you have to understand, we need to support Serafina's real opportunities. Your programming is a nice hobby, but it's not going to pay for college." The next evening, while my family celebrated Serafina's volleyball victory, I sat in the Riverside High School auditorium holding a first-place trophy. The judges had praised my innovation, my technical skill, my potential. College recruiters had handed me business cards. I drove home alone, the trophy buckled into the passenger seat. When I walked into our dark, empty house, there was no one to share the most important moment of my young life. I placed the trophy on my bookshelf, next to programming textbooks I had bought with my own money. In the morning, no one would ask how the competition had gone. High school graduation approached, and with it came college acceptance letters. Stanford offered me a partial scholarship for computer science, covering 60% of tuition. The remaining $12,000 per year seemed insurmountable, but it was the key to everything I had dreamed of. I chose the moment carefully, waiting for our weekly Sunday dinner. "I have exciting news. Stanford has accepted me into their computer science program with a partial scholarship." Father looked up from his pot roast with displeasure. "Computer science? Ilara, that's completely impractical. You need something that leads to stable employment, like teaching or nursing." Technology is one of the fastest growing industries, I replied, pulling out my prepared information. Starting salaries for Stanford computer science graduates are well above the national average. Job growth projections are just numbers on paper, Mother interrupted condescendingly. What matters is having a secure career, something that will be there even if you have a family someday. Serafina leaned back with her familiar smirk. Besides, isn't Stanford ridiculously expensive? How much would this computer thing cost? The remaining tuition after my scholarship would be about $12,000 per year. It's an investment in my future. Father's laugh was humorless. $12,000? For a degree in playing with computers? Absolutely not. We need that money to help Serafina finish her business degree. She has real potential, real practical skills. I looked around the table at these three people who shared my DNA but seemed to inhabit a different universe. What if I took out student loans? What if I worked part-time? Student loans are a trap, Mother said firmly, and working while maintaining grades is unrealistic. You'd be setting yourself up for failure. Serafina's voice dripped with mock sympathy. Maybe you could go to community college like me, at least for the first 2 years. Study something more practical. The suggestion felt like a slap. I had worked harder than any of them, achieved more than Serafina ever had, and they were suggesting I settle for community college while she received unconditional support. I'm going to Stanford, I said quietly, with more certainty than I had ever felt. With or without your help, I'm going to pursue computer science, and I'm going to succeed. Father's face darkened. You're going to throw away your future chasing some fantasy? You'll end up with crushing debt and no practical skills. I stood up from the table. You've never believed in anything I've accomplished. You've never even tried to understand what I'm capable of. I've won awards, received recognition, earned scholarship money through my own merit, and none of it has ever mattered to you. Don't be dramatic, Mother said with tired patience. We want what's best for you, even if you can't see it. What's best for me is following my passion and developing my talents. What's best for me is not spending my life wondering what I could have accomplished if my own family had bothered to support my dreams. Serafina rolled her eyes theatrically. God, Alara, you're so dramatic. Just because Mom and Dad won't throw money at your computer obsession doesn't mean they don't support you. I looked at each of them one last time. I'll remember this. When I graduate from Stanford, when I build the career I've dreamed of, when I achieve everything you said was impossible, I'll remember that you chose not to be part of it. The next 3 months were a blur of applications to schools with better financial aid, scholarship competitions, and multiple part-time jobs. I worked at the grocery store, tutored students, and cleaned office buildings. Every dollar went to my college fund. Every rejection letter strengthened my resolve. When Stanford's acceptance letter arrived with an improved scholarship covering 80% of tuition, I was alone in my room. There was no family celebration, no proud parents calling relatives. Just me, holding the letter that represented my ticket to independence. I graduated as salutatorian, an achievement that earned brief congratulations from my family over dinner. Serafina had failed 2 classes that semester but still received their focused support for finding her path, while my success was treated as expected rather than celebrated. The summer before college, I worked 60 hours a week. While classmates relaxed, I stocked shelves, tutored students, and counted days until I could escape to a place where my ambitions would be understood. College was everything I had dreamed and more challenging than imagined. Professors recognized my talent, classmates came from supportive families, and I worked until the computer lab closed every night while maintaining part-time jobs. During sophomore year winter break, I returned home with a portfolio that had impressed professors. I had been selected for a prestigious internship program and was eager to share my excitement. I've been selected for a software development internship with a startup working on artificial intelligence for medical diagnosis, I announced at dinner. The technology could save thousands of lives by catching diseases earlier and more accurately. Father and Mother exchanged meaningful glances. That sounds very interesting, honey, Mother said in her trying to be supportive tone. Will it pay anything? It's paid, but more importantly, it's experience that could lead to career opportunities in emerging technology. Serafina laughed dismissively. Career opportunities that don't exist yet? Alara, you can't build a future on something that might never happen. Her boyfriend Derek nodded sagely. She's right. At least with sales, there's always going to be need for people who can connect with customers. I looked around at these people incapable of understanding what I was trying to accomplish. Artificial intelligence isn't going to become obsolete. It's the future of technology, medicine, communication. Father leaned back with paternal patience. Sweetheart, every generation thinks they're going to revolutionize the world with whatever new technology is popular. The reality is most people need stable, practical careers. This is a stable career, I insisted, pulling out articles and research reports. Demand for skilled programmers is projected to grow over 30% in the next decade. Mother patted my hand with gentle condescension. We're proud of you for working hard. But you don't want to get so caught up in big dreams that you forget practical aspects of life. What happens when you want to get married and have children? The assumption that my career would naturally take a back seat to hypothetical family responsibilities took my breath away. Why are you assuming my career would be secondary? Why couldn't I have both like men do? Serafina rolled her eyes dramatically. Because that's how the real world works. Women have to make choices, men don't. You can't compete with men who work 80 hours a week because they have wives handling everything else. That's exactly the thinking that holds women back, I replied, voice rising. The technology industry is changing, and there are more opportunities for women than ever. Father's laugh was humorless. The technology industry is a boys' club that will chew you up and spit you out. You're setting yourself up for disappointment. The conversation moved on, and I spent the rest of break counting days until I could return to an environment where my ambitions were valued. The next 2.5 years passed in academic excellence, internships, and growing confidence. I graduated summa cum laude with multiple job offers, but was most excited about joining a small AI startup, developing diagnostic tools for emergency medicine. During my second year at the company, I met Liam Chen, a software engineer whose quiet confidence and genuine kindness drew me to him. He understood my work, celebrated my successes without reservation, and treated my ambitions as natural rather than unusual. When Liam proposed in the computer lab where we had first collaborated, I wanted to share this milestone with my family. I called with engagement news, hoping this might bridge our gap. I sent wedding invitations 8 weeks in advance, called to confirm receipt, and reserved front row seats. I wanted them there, not because I needed their approval, but because I hoped seeing me happy might help them understand who I had become. The morning of my wedding, as I put on my dress, I imagined seeing my family in the front row, finally present for one of the most important days of my life. The call came while I was having my hair done. Serafina's voice was casual, as if discussing weather. "Hey Alara, hope you have a lovely ceremony. Unfortunately, we won't be able to make it. I'm having a baby shower this afternoon, and Mom and Dad committed to being here." The words hit like a physical blow. A baby shower? Serafina, you've known about my wedding for 2 months. How can a baby shower be more important than your sister's wedding? Her laugh was light and dismissive. You know, family comes first. This baby shower has been planned for weeks. Besides, weddings are just parties. The important thing is that you're happy, right? I gripped the phone, trying to process the casual cruelty. Serafina, I'm family too. This isn't just a party, it's my wedding day. You know what I mean. This is important family business. Your wedding is just a celebration. There's a difference. I found myself speaking from a place of clarity I hadn't known existed. You're right, there is a difference. I've spent my entire life trying to be part of a family that has consistently shown me I'm not a priority. Today, I'm marrying someone who chose me first, surrounded by people who actually want to celebrate my happiness. I hung up and stared at my reflection. The woman looking back was about to marry the love of her life, surrounded by people who genuinely cared. The absence of my birth family hurt, but it didn't diminish the joy or significance of my commitment. When I walked down the aisle 2 hours later, I saw Liam's face light up with love and pride. The empty front row seats were visible reminders of painful truth, but also symbols of my freedom from needing validation from people who had never truly seen me. The years that followed were the happiest of my life. Liam and I bought a small house, adopted a dog, and threw ourselves into meaningful careers. The AI diagnostic tool I had been developing was acquired by a major medical technology company, and I found myself in demand as a consultant and speaker. During this time, I met Marcus Thorne, a brilliant programmer who had been cheated by a previous employer and shared my determination to succeed despite obstacles. Marcus became my business partner and closest friend outside marriage, and together we developed a new AI platform that revolutionized emergency medicine. 3 years after my wedding, our startup was thriving beyond dreams. We had developed algorithms that diagnosed heart attacks, strokes, and sepsis faster and more accurately than traditional methods, and hospitals nationwide were implementing our technology. When Google approached us about acquisition, the offer was substantial enough to set me up for life. After months of negotiations, we agreed to $50 million, with performance bonuses potentially bringing the total to $70 million. The day I signed the papers in Mountain View, I thought about the conversation 7 years earlier when my parents dismissed my dreams as impractical fantasies. Now I was a multimillionaire with a reputation as a leading medical AI innovator, having achieved success entirely without their support. That evening, Liam and I sat in our backyard, sharing champagne and discussing our future. We had decided to use most of the acquisition money to establish a scholarship fund for young women interested in computer science, particularly those from unsupportive families. I want to call it the Code Dreams Foundation, I told Liam. Every girl who gets passed over while her brother gets encouragement, every daughter told programming is just a hobby, every young woman whose family thinks technology isn't appropriate for girls, they'll know someone believes in their potential. How much do you want to commit? Liam asked. I had been considering this for weeks. $40 million. Enough for full scholarships to dozens of students every year, plus mentorship and internship opportunities. The next morning, I posted a photo on Instagram of the Lamborghini I had impulsively purchased to celebrate. It was extravagant, but I had earned the right to enjoy my success, and I wanted a tangible symbol of how far I had come. Within hours, my phone buzzed with notifications from friends and colleagues, but buried among them was a text from my father. Saw the car photo. Impressive. We should talk. I stared at the message, remembering all the conversations we should have had when my achievements went unnoticed. Now, when I had something visible and expensive, he wanted to talk. I showed the message to Liam and Marcus. What do you think he wants? Marcus, who had experience with people only showing interest when work became profitable, shook his head knowingly. He wants in on the success he never supported. I typed a polite but revealing response. Thank you for reaching out. My company was just acquired by Google for $50 million. I've donated most of it to establish a scholarship foundation for young women in computer science. Would love to catch up soon. The response came within minutes, barely contained desperation evident. Alara, what do you mean you donated most of it? Family should take care of family first. We need to discuss this immediately. The phone rang before I could respond. Father's voice was tight with emotion, and I could hear Mother and Serafina arguing before he put the call on speaker. Alara, explain what you meant about donating the money from your company sale. Surely you didn't give away money that belongs to the family. The assumption that my earnings belonged to people who had contributed nothing was audacious. The money belongs to me, Dad. I built the company, developed the technology, and made the decision about how to use the profits. Mother's voice joined sharply. You can't just throw money at strangers when your own family has needs. Serafina is struggling with student loans and childcare, and your father and I have mortgage and retirement to think about. Those strangers are young women who remind me of myself at their age, I replied steadily. They're girls whose families don't believe in their potential, whose dreams are dismissed as hobbies, whose talents are ignored in favor of siblings' mediocre efforts. Serafina's voice cut through with entitled sharpness. That's completely different. We're your family. Blood is thicker than water, and you owe us loyalty before random people you've never met. Blood is thicker than water? I repeated slowly, tasting the irony. Where was that loyalty when I needed $12,000 for Stanford? Where was that family support when I graduated summa cum laude? Where was that blood connection on my wedding day? Father's voice took on authoritative tones. Those were different circumstances. You managed fine on your own, which proves you didn't really need our help. But now you have real money, and you have a responsibility to your family. The casual dismissal of my struggles, the rewriting of history to make my independence seem like evidence I hadn't needed support, was breathtaking. I managed fine because I had to. I worked 3 jobs while Serafina got money handed to her for a degree she's still struggling to complete. Marcus took the phone from me, his voice calm but firm. This is Marcus Thorne, Alara's business partner. I've watched her build this company from nothing, working 18-hour days. The success you want to share was earned through sacrifice and vision none of you supported. Who are you to interfere in family business? Father demanded. I'm someone who invested in Alara when her own family wouldn't. Marcus replied evenly. I'm someone who believed in her vision when people who claimed to love her were telling her to be realistic. I'm someone who showed up. Liam took the phone next. This is Liam, Alara's husband. I was there on our wedding day when she waited for family who never came. I've watched her succeed beyond expectations while hoping for acknowledgement from people who consistently failed to see her value. We've always been proud of Alara, Mother interjected defensively. Just because we couldn't attend one event doesn't mean we don't care. One event? I took the phone back. Mom, you missed my Stanford graduation because Serafina had a dentist appointment. You missed my wedding for a baby shower. You've missed every important moment, and now you want to claim pride in achievements you actively discouraged? After several seconds of silence, Father's voice returned with desperate notes. We made mistakes. We're human, not perfect parents. But that doesn't mean you should abandon family when you have means to help. I'm not abandoning anyone, I said quietly. I'm choosing to help people who will use opportunities to build better lives. I'm choosing to invest in potential rather than entitlement. Those people aren't your responsibility, Serafina shouted. We are your family. We raised you, housed you, fed you for 18 years. You owe us something. The transactional view of family relationships was so offensive that I felt my last connection to these people snap. You did the bare minimum the law requires. You provided food, shelter, and clothing, while consistently undermining my confidence, dismissing achievements, and prioritizing one child over another's dreams. That's not love, and it doesn't create obligation. The conversation continued for 20 more minutes, cycling through arguments, emotional appeals, and veiled threats. They suggested my success had made me selfish, hinted I would regret this decision, and implied they might take legal action based on imaginary family obligations. Through it all, I remained calm, supported by people who had earned the right to call themselves my family through consistent actions and unconditional support. When I finally hung up, I felt liberation that was both exhilarating and terrifying. "Are you okay?" Liam asked, his arm around me. "I think I'm free," I replied, and for the first time in my adult life, that felt completely true. The Code Dreams Foundation launched 6 months later with 25 scholarship recipients selected from hundreds of applications. Each scholarship covered full tuition, room and board, plus support for internships and mentorship programs. The application essays broke my heart and filled me with determination. Young women wrote about parents who couldn't understand why they wanted computer science instead of traditional fields. They described siblings receiving automatic support while being told to find practical interests. Every essay reminded me of my own journey, and every scholarship felt like victory for every young woman told her dreams were unrealistic. The media attention was overwhelmingly positive. During one interview, a journalist asked why I chose to help strangers rather than family. My answer came from years of reflection and hard-won wisdom. "The young women who receive these scholarships aren't strangers," I explained. "They're me at 14, winning programming competitions while families attend sporting events. They're me at 18, working multiple jobs for college while siblings receive unconditional support. They're me at 25, achieving success while hoping for recognition that never comes." The success of Code Dreams exceeded every expectation. Within 2 years, we provided scholarships at 15 universities, established partnerships with major technology companies, and created a mentorship network connecting recipients with successful women in technology. 3 years after establishing the foundation, I received an invitation that would have seemed impossible during childhood. The National Academy of Engineering wanted to honor me as their youngest ever recipient of their Innovation in Technology Award. Standing at the podium accepting the award, I thought about the 8-year-old girl told computers weren't appropriate for her. "This award belongs not just to me but to every young woman told technology isn't for her," I said. "It belongs to girls who taught themselves programming from library books, who worked multiple jobs for college, who persevered despite being overlooked by people who should have believed in them most." That evening, celebrating with Liam, Marcus, and scholarship recipients who had traveled to attend, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. When I opened it, I discovered it was from my mother. "Saw you on the news accepting your award. We're proud of you, honey. Maybe we could try to rebuild our relationship. Love, Mom." I stared at the message, processing mixed emotions. Part of me had waited my entire life to hear those words, to receive acknowledgement from people whose approval had once mattered most. But there was clarity that came from years of building life based on mutual respect, genuine support, and earned trust rather than biological obligation. The pride expressed was conditional on public success, not on intrinsic value she saw in me as a person. I showed the message to Liam, who read it carefully and looked at me with understanding. "How do you feel?" "Sad," I said honestly. "Sad that it took a national award for them to express pride. Sad that their love seems conditional on external validation. Sad that they missed so many opportunities to be part of something beautiful." Marcus raised his glass in a toast. "To the family that chose us, and the family we chose. To people who believed in us before we proved them right, and people we get to believe in now." As I clinked glasses with people who had earned the right to call themselves my family, I realized my journey was complete. I had transformed from a girl desperately seeking approval from people incapable of giving it to a woman surrounded by love, respect, and mutual support. I had turned pain into purpose, rejection into resilience, and isolation into impact. I never responded to my mother's text. Instead, I focused energy on relationships and work that brought meaning and joy. I had learned that family isn't defined by biology but by choice, commitment, and consistent care for each other's well-being. Sometimes, the greatest act of love is letting go of relationships that diminish your worth and embracing connections that celebrate your authentic self. Sometimes, the most radical thing you can do is refuse to accept less than you deserve, even from people who claim to love you. My name is Ilara Vance, and I am no longer waiting for anyone's permission to be extraordinary. I am living proof that when people who should believe in you don't, you can find others who will. When people who should invest in your dreams refuse to, you can invest in yourself. When people who should celebrate your success are absent, you can create a chosen family that will never let you face important moments alone. The little girl who once sat alone holding a programming award no one cared to see has grown into a woman who creates opportunities for other little girls to see their worth reflected in eyes of people who truly matter. The young woman who walked down the aisle to an empty front row has built a life surrounded by people who would move mountains to be present for her important moments. Blood may be thicker than water, but chosen love is stronger than both. In the end, the family that matters most is the one that chooses you back, believes in your potential, and celebrates your success without reservation or condition. I am living proof that sometimes the greatest gift life can give you is the strength to walk away from people who don't deserve you and toward people who do.